Hello, my dear students, and welcome to your favorite educational YouTube channel, Educator Prerna, or as you popularly know me as English Valley Ma'am. So, आज के हमारे T20 सीरीज EPL में हम पढ़ने वाले हैं एक very interesting chapter from our main reader, and the chapter is titled as The Sermon at Benares. So ये जो chapter है Sermon at Benares talks about the sermon which was given by Gautam Buddha in the city of Benares. Now why this sermon is very special? Because okay, पहले तो sermon का मतलब समझते हैं. Sermon को अगर आपको हिंदी में समझना हो वो होता है उपदेश, और अदरवाइज अगर आपको एक्सप्लेन करना है इट्स अ रिलीजियस टॉक which is given by a saint or a religious man. तो ये जो सर्मन है जो बनारस में गौतम बुद्धा ने दिया था, व्हाई इज इट सो स्पेशल? आपके चैप्टर के बिगनिंग में ही लिखा हुआ है. वी आर ऑन पेज नंबर 134. इट सेज द बुद्धा प्रीच्ड हिज फर्स्ट सर्मन, जो सबसे पहला उपदेश, व्हेन किंग सिद्धार्था, व्हेन ही वेंट टू द पाथ ऑफ एनलाइटनमेंट एंड केम टू बी नोन एज गौतम बुद्धा. तो उन्होंने जो सीखा ड्यूरिंग हिज मेडिटेशन ईयर्स, सो उसमें जो सबसे पहला उपदेश था, जो सबसे पहली टीचिंग थी, जो सबसे पहली रिलीजियस टॉक थी, वो उन्होंने कहाँ दी थी? एट बनारस. इट सेज द बुद्धा प्रीच्ड हिज फर्स्ट सर्मन एट द सिटी ऑफ बनारस, मोस्ट होली ऑफ द डिपिंग प्लेसेस ऑफ द रिवर गैंजेस. The sermon has been preserved and is given here. It reflects the Buddha's wisdom about one inscrutable kind of suffering. Okay, so sermon at Benares इसीलिए special है because it's the first sermon that Buddha gave after achieving enlightenment. Okay, so हम सबको ये story पता है that King Siddhartha, obviously his king was born in a royal family. So once he was out with his people, and he saw four sights. That was sight of a dead man, a man begging, and he saw someone ill. So he saw the four sights and he was very much taken away by this, and he came to know that the world is not what he thinks, like having a royal life, having everything served on a platter. He came to know that the world is full of sufferings. So because he as a king lived in a very protected environment, so he thought that this is how the world is. But when he saw, or he was on his chariot and he saw these four sufferings, he realized that life is very difficult for people living in this world, and that after that day he went on to the path of achieving enlightenment. He wanted to understand the truths of life, and specifically related to human life. So then he meditated for several years, and he meditated under the banyan tree, which also came to know so Bodhi tree it is known as, and he achieved enlightenment under this tree. Okay, and it is also called, Bodhi tree is also called as the tree of wisdom. Okay, so let's start reading the sermon that he delivered at Benares. So why he delivered that sermon, and what happened, what situation came because of which he delivered that sermon. So we are on page number 134. Kisa Gautami had only one son, and he died. In her grief, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine, and the people said, she has lost her senses. The boy is dead. At length, Kisa Gautami met a man who replied to her request. I cannot give thee medicine for thy child, but I know a physician who can. And the girl said, pray tell me, sir, who is it? And the man replied, go to Shakyamuni, the Buddha. So this lady Kisa Gautami, she had only one son and she lost her son. So she was going to every man she met or she could approach, and she said, give me a medicine which I can give to the dead son and he can be alive again. So people were like, this lady has lost her senses. She cannot understand a simple fact that once a person is dead, cannot be brought back to life. But one man said, I cannot give you the medicine, but there is probably one person who can help you. So go to this man named Shakyamuni the Buddha. Kisa Gautami repaired to the Buddha and cried, Lord and Master, give me the medicine that will cure my boy. So Kisa Gautami, she rushed to Gautam Buddha and she said, give me the medicine which can bring my son back to life. The Buddha answered, I want a handful of mustard seeds. And when the girl in her joy promised to procure it, the Buddha added, the mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has lost a child, husband, parent, or a friend. So Gautam Buddha said, I will give you the medicine, but you go and get me a handful of mustard seeds. So Kisa Gautami thought, oh, this is very simple. And the moment she was, all elated and, suddenly in a high life condition. So Gautam Buddha said, but I will only accept mustard seeds from a house where death has never occurred. Okay, so no one has ever died in that house. So get me mustard seeds only from that house. So Kisa Gautami thought, okay, I'll go and look for a house, and probably this is not such a difficult task. Poor Kisa Gautami now went from house to house, and the people pitied her and said, here is mustard seed, take it. But when she asked, did a son or a daughter or a father, mother, anyone die in your family? Ever? Did death ever occur in your house? They answered, yes. Alas, the living are few, but the dead are many. Do not remind us of our deepest grief. And there was no house where a beloved had not died. So now Kisa Gautami could not find any house jahan par death had never occurred. Now she became weary, she became hopeless, and she sat down at the wayside watching the lights of the city as they flickered up and they finally exhausted. So जो street lights थी वो flicker कर रही थी, जल रही थी, बुझ रही थी, जल रही थी, बुझ रही थी, and finally वो जो lights थी वो क्या हुआ उन lights का, वो lights जो थी वो off हो गई completely. Then what happened? As they flickered, so Kisa Gautami, she was hopeless and she saw down the wayside, watching the lights of the city, they flickered and were extinguished again. At last, the darkness of the night reigned everywhere. And she considered the fate of men, that their lives flicker up and are extinguished again. So life of human beings, there are ups and downs in life, but finally the life comes to a standstill. That is, death comes to all. And then she thought to herself, how selfish am I in my grief? Death is common to all. Yet, in this valley of desolation, there is a path that leads him to immorality, who has surrendered all selfishness. So Kisa Gautami, merely by looking at those lights, she understood what Gautam Buddha was actually trying to teach her. That death, like life, is common. Similarly, birth is common. Similarly, death is a universal phenomena. It will occur when it has to, and it occurs everywhere. So Kisa Gautami realized that, in this situation, in this phase of deep sorrow, she can still, understand, or she can still be enlightened. The Buddha said, the life of the mortals in this world is troubled and brief and combined with pain. For there is not any means by which those that have been born can avoid dying. After reaching old age, there is death, of such a nature are living beings. So uh, Gautam Buddha very clearly, he says that if you're born in this world, you will experience death also. Okay, and specifically when it talks about old age, as ripe fruits are early in danger of falling, so mortals, when born, are always in danger of death. So it's not like that only when you turn old, a person will die. We do hear news about a newborn, succumb to miseries, succumb to death, right? So when you are born, death will also come. As all earthen vessels made by potter end uh, in being broken, so is the life of mortal. So he draws another allegory here. He gives another comparison here कि जो आप earthen pots, मिट्टी के जो pots लेके आते हो, क्या होता है, एक ना एक दिन what happens, they break. Such is the case of human beings, both young and adult, both those who are fools and those who are wise, all fall into the power of death. All are subject to death. So it's not like that, oh, I am a very good human being, or you are a very good human being. Birth and death will occur to all. So, they say that nature is gives justice. Nature will always deliver justice. So whether you are born rich, you're born poor, you're born wise, you are foolish, you're born, absolutely fine, a person is born specially abled, that doesn't matter. Birth and death, these are universal phenomena. Of those who overcome by death, depart from life, a father cannot save his son, non kinsmen their relations. Mark, while relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply, lamenting is to be in a state of extreme sorrow, and you're continuously crying about it, continuously weeping about it, continuously complaining about it. Oh, this person was so dear to me, and this person is no more in my life. So he says, while relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply, one by one mortals are carried off like an ox that is led to the slaughter. So the world is afflicted with death and decay. Afflicted with means affected by suffering, by pain. Therefore, the wise do not grieve, knowing the terms of the world. So here Buddha is trying to say that a person who is wise will never complain about sufferings of life, will never complain that, oh, this happened in my life, oh, I lost this person. Because the wise understands that life is full of ups and downs and will eventually extinguish. This is what life is. Okay, so I'll tell you a very interesting story after we finish reading this chapter. And this story, I remember, I was in a meeting and someone narrated this story. And जब भी मैं ये chapter पढ़ाती हूँ, I always tell this story to my students. So I'll tell it to you also. Then he says, not from weeping, weeping is crying, not from weeping, nor from grieving will anyone obtain peace of mind. On the contrary, his pain will be greater and his body will suffer. जब आप बहुत ज्यादा रो रहे हो, तो आप इमोशनल हो रखे हो, यू आर डिस्टर्ब्ड अबाउट समथिंग, आप ऑफ कोर्स अपने आप को इमोशनल पेन में तो आप हो ही, बट इसी के साथ आप फिजिकल पेन भी दे रहे हो. That doesn't mean that you don't vent out. Of course, it is important to vent out, but holding on to that grief कि मेरा ये नुकसान हो गया, मेरे साथ झगड़ा हो गया, I lost this person. If you keep on holding to that grief, you will definitely harm yourself physically and emotionally and lead and eventually be on a path of misery. He will make himself sick and pale, yet the dead are not saved by his lamentation. ऐसा तो नहीं है ना कि मैं बहुत ज्यादा रोऊं, so I lost my father, so it's not like कि मैं बहुत आज भी रोती रहूं and he will come back. That's not going to happen. The truth of the life is that he is not there. Okay, so we have to move on after a particular time. So he who seeks peace should withdraw out, should draw out the arrow of lamentation and complaint and grief. He who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. So here Gautam Buddha is reiterating that the moment you stop, carrying that grief, that sorrow in your mind, you will eventually obtain peace. The moment you accept the truth that this is what life is, it is full of ups and downs. And it's not like a person is in my life and will stay in my life forever. The moment you accept these truth of life, you will be able to overcome sorrow, you will be able to overcome grief. Okay, because certain truths of life, the only option that you have is to accept them and move on. So first I'll tell you a little funny story here. So I remember when I was speaking to one of my mentors, and I said, today I had a bad day. I mean, everything is going haywire. Kal to mera din itna acha gaya tha. I had not even planned my day yesterday, but still it went on so well. And today I had planned everything. I had prepared my entire to-do list. So, but today the day has started off like anything, and I everything is going out of my hands. I don't know what to do or what to say. So she said, "Okay, sit down for a minute." And she said, "Have you ever gone got your ECG done?" I said, "Yeah, I know what ECG is." So she's like, जब ECG machine में ऐसे ऐसे waves चल रही होती हैं, the person is still fine. But जैसे ही वो line flat हो जाती है ना, the person is not there. So वो जो ECG की line है ना, वही life है. So be happy that you have the right readings on your life ECG rather than having a flat line. और एक और इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरी मैं आप सबको सुनाती हूँ. सो वंस देयर वाज अ मैन, वो अपने फ्रेंड के पास गया और बोलता है, अरे मेरी लाइफ में ये टेंशन है, मेरी किसी से बनती नहीं है, मेरे से हर कोई लड़ता रहता है, मुझे समझ नहीं आता, आई एम सो नाइस टू एवरीवन, मेरी लाइफ में फाइनेंशियल डिफिकल्टी भी है, मेरी फैमिली मेरी बात नहीं सुनती है, मेरी तो लाइफ में प्रॉब्लम्स ही प्रॉब्लम्स है, मैं क्या करूं. सो उसके फ्रेंड ने पहले पेशेंटली पूरी बात सुनी, और फिर उसके फ्रेंड ने बोला, अच्छा कोई बात नहीं, यू नीड नॉट बी टेंस्ड अबाउट इट. एक काम करते हैं, कल मैं तुम्हें एक ऐसी जगह लेके जाऊंगा जहां पर 136 लोग रहते हैं, और उन 136 लोगों की लाइफ में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बिल्कुल फ्री है उनकी लाइफ, दे आर वेरी हैप्पी. सो उसका फ्रेंड बड़ा एक्साइट हो, ओ वाओ, ऐसी भी जगह, अच्छा ठीक है. सो ही सेड, सो ही टोल्ड हिज फ्रेंड बिफोर लीविंग कि आई वांट टू बी द 137th पर्सन देयर. तो उसके फ्रेंड ने बोला, आई होप नॉट. उसको अजीब लगा, क्यों भाई, ये मुझे खुश नहीं देखना चाहता. ठीक है, उसके फ्रेंड ने बोला, कल आना, कल मैं तुम्हें उस जगह पे लेके जाऊंगा. सो नेक्स्ट डे ये जो फ्रेंड था, ये अपने उस परेशान फ्रेंड को लेके गया. बट कहाँ लेके गया? He took his friend to a graveyard. What is a graveyard? Where dead people are placed. And he said, देखो यहाँ पे जो ये 136 लोग हैं ना, इनकी लाइफ में कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है. So do you want to be that 137th person? And that is where इस परेशान friend को समझ आया that life is full of ups and downs. We need to come out of that stage of always complaining, cribbing, and understand the importance of moving on. एग्जाम में मार्क्स कम आए, रोई जा रहे हो. एक्शन क्या ले रहे हो हैप्पी होने के लिए? पढ़ नहीं रहे हो और अच्छे से मेहनत नहीं कर रहे हो, तो सॉरो ही रहेगा, हैप्पीनेस तो आएगी नहीं. So I leave you with that, thought, and we will meet in the next session. Till then, stay blessed and do like, share and subscribe to Educator Prerna. Thank you.